If you're somebody that's had the excuse of high standards being the reason why you can't be kind to yourself, so we're going to talk about self-grace. So we either choose to give ourselves some level of forgiveness and kindness, or the world will force it upon us. So, self-grace. So I've written here, either we choose to offer ourselves grace, or it will be forced upon us. And I want to highlight these key words. We either choose to offer ourselves grace. We either choose to be kind to ourselves, or it will be forced upon us. And what does that mean? 2 years ago, I broke my ankle, like badly. My ankle was like this. I was playing football, as I do, running down the wing, bit like Vinny. I'm cutting, and snap, my ankle's gone. I've looked down and it's doing all of that. I don't want to paint too much of a gruesome picture, but I think you get the message. My ankle was not in a good place. I was on the path of being a professional footballer. I haven't got time to waste. Come on, we got to do this. We got to do this now. I never chose to offer myself grace. And in that moment, grace was forced upon me. So we either choose to offer ourselves grace, or it will be forced upon us. Now, grace, how do we define it? Grace is kindness. Kindness to the self. We ask ourselves that question, and we're going to get onto it later. Later in this video, we're going to go through 3 questions. 3 real questions, 3 real deep questions that we can ask ourselves that will give ourselves an understanding of whether we have grace, whether we have kindness, whether we're kind to ourselves, and maybe why we're not. And ultimately, how to fix it. And I hope that this story shows why we should fix it. So, these moments. As I'm laying there, I'm on the ground, legs, ankles like this. I shouldn't laugh, but my ankles like this. And my coach has come over and he's tapped me, made sure I'm okay, you know what I mean, helped me up. And in that process, I thought to myself, I can't get up by myself. I'm unable to get up by myself. I'm unable even to walk to the entrance of the football pitch. I'm unable to get off this pitch. Who's going to call an ambulance? Who's going to help me? I'm stuck. And in that moment, I had to make a decision. Do I keep this high standard that I've got of myself, this footballer that can do everything himself, or do I bring myself back down? I had to recognize that in this moment, there was nothing I could do about it. Nothing at all I could have done about this situation. And the reason why I've put self-grace, we either choose to offer ourselves grace or it's forced upon us, is because in this moment, an uncontrollable, unforeseen circumstance has happened out of nowhere. Bang! Broken ankle. Bang, you can't walk. Damn! If I don't humble myself, if I never humbled myself in this moment, which I didn't want to, my first reaction when my manager came over, when the coach came over, when the players are coming over, huddling over me, is anger, is why me? Why me? Why has this happened to me? Why couldn't it happen to someone else? And then my second reaction is I can't move unless I choose to give myself grace. But ultimately, in that moment, it was forced upon me. And we're going to be talking about exactly why grace is so important. If you're an overthinking overachiever, somebody that struggles with being kind to yourself, you think kindness is weakness and that your weakness is going to infiltrate your ability to perform. I've been there so many times. Before we get into it, I've got a scripture here. If you're not a Christian, I just want you to look at this as ancient wisdom. And it's 2 Corinthians 12:9. And it says, "My grace is sufficient for you, and my power is made perfect in weakness." And it's in those moments of weakness that God can really show up in our lives. And I've put here that God's strength shows up when you're honest about your weakness. When we're honest about the fact that I think I'm unable to do this by myself, you know. Or I fell short. Or there's a circumstance that's completely out of my control. How am I going to fix it? Who's going to fix it? And his power is made perfect in our weakness. This, as I put this together, it's going to sound like a perfect story. It's going to sound like this happened and then this happened and end of story. This was amazing. But that very much wasn't the case. There were some events that took place after. There were some feelings that arised in me after injuring myself like this, which caused a path of destruction. Now, I want you to bear in mind that this picture and the pictures below that we'll get onto are 2 years apart. They should have been a year apart. And the reason why they was 2 years apart was because I spent a year in the pits, blaming myself. And in the midst of blaming myself, I wasn't doing the work that could have got me back sooner. That doesn't make sense. Fast forward 2 years, and in this first picture, I signed for a semi-professional club. This is actually the wrong way around. I went here to the here, and I was back on my feet. But the moral of this is not the transition, it's the moment. And what I want to speak about is that in this moment, you see a ball on my feet, gradually getting better, improving at the metric that I thought I cared about. I hadn't given myself grace. All those years later, I hadn't given myself grace. I hadn't offered myself any level of kindness. And the young boy in that picture, in these two pictures, was just as harsh on himself as the young man in those two pictures, or the young boy in those two pictures where I had broken my ankle. How can we make such a big transition? How can we grow so much, do so much better on the surface level, but yet we're not kinder to ourselves? And I learned here that self-grace is not something dependent on results. How can you be in two polar opposite circumstances but feel the same way? And I learned here that self-grace is something that, irregardless of the circumstance, is something we need to implement early, or we will forever be in this place where we can never accept ourselves. And I'll ask again, if we can't accept ourselves, would we be friends with ourselves? If there was a clone of us sitting here, would we be friends with them? This is a video that I'm very much making, but this is very much for myself. How can we be kinder to each other if we don't offer ourselves grace? The 3 questions that we need to start asking ourselves in order to build a better relationship with ourselves. I ran into the jungle this morning, came out with a fresh trim, and more importantly, I came out with some notes. These 3 questions came to mind. These 3 questions give us the ability to start setting those foundations of kindness in our self-relationship. Because ultimately, the external world, the external relationships that we have, the connections and love that we feel is all a reflection of the internal. So if we do not have grace with ourselves, if we're not kind to ourselves, then we're not going to be able to truly offer the deepest level of love and kindness to the people around us. So first of all, would we be friends with ourselves? I had to ask myself this honest question. Would you be friends with yourself? And the answer was no. I've gone through times where, I'm sure we've all gone through times where we're not doing the things that we said we would, sticking to our promises. Would you be friends with a person that wasn't sticking to do we keep our promises? And if the answer is no, then that's 2 X's on these 3 questions. And these questions are so powerful because if there's an X on every single one of them, then there's 3 things that we need to start working on straight away. And the relationship with ourselves will slowly get better once we start working on these things. And my last one was, am I kind in the feet? No. I go back, I snap my ankle in half. There's nothing I can do about it. But I wasn't kind to myself. So unkind, in fact, that 2 years later, that when I had achieved the things I wanted to achieve, I didn't feel satisfied. There was a hole inside, which showed me that ultimately it is not the results that give us this kindness, this self-grace. Is the ability to accept and forgive and understand what is in and outside of our control. And we ask ourselves this again: would we be friends with ourselves? And we can turn this X. Let's get rid of these. Let's get rid of them. And we're going to say, yeah, I would. How do we do that? Would we be friends with ourselves? How do we get a tick on the board? Well, first of all, when there's a situation out of our hands, when there's a shock, horror event, tragedy, something that we have no control over nor influence, can we accept that we need other people's help? Can we accept that we fell short and we have an opportunity to go again? But in that opportunity to go again, we must be close with ourselves. We must be kind to ourselves in order to enjoy that journey. And in order for that journey not to be sufferable. As I said, those 2 years, I achieved everything I wanted, but I didn't enjoy the journey, nor did I enjoy the destination. For a lot of it, because I was being so harsh to myself. When other people were saying well done, I was saying that's not good enough. Would you be friends with yourself? Now, we know we have to be our biggest critic, but we have to be our biggest believer as well. Let's start believing in ourselves to be friends with ourselves. The next one, do you keep promises to yourself? Now, we're going to reframe this. Instead of do we keep promises to ourselves, do we make too many promises that we can't keep? And most of the time, that's the case more than we can't keep our promises. It's that we make promises that we can't keep, if that makes sense. So instead of a list of 20 things you've got to complete in one day, strip it back to a list of 2 or 3. And slowly we'll start to be able to keep our promises. Start to build trust with ourselves. And trust inevitably ends to the first question. Building trust. Would we be friends with ourselves? Yeah. Could we trust ourselves? And the next one. Are you kind in defeat and solution focused? Defeat is inevitable. I used to think that I could do everything to avoid defeat. And the first time I experienced defeat in that moment, or one of the first times that I've experienced real defeat in that moment, was a wave of, this is unfair, how on earth has this happened, it's out of your control. But it's a level of defeat. It's happened. But it wasn't solution focused, problem focused, and it caused me another year in rehabilitation, mentally and physically. Are we kind in defeat and solution focused? How do we give this a tick? Well, we can give this a tick by understanding that the environments, the things that happen, don't define us. If you're somebody that needs to implement a little bit more grace and kindness and forgiveness in your life to yourself, consider that it is something that you have to choose, or it will be forced upon you. And I'm sure, as an overthinking overachiever, somebody that has a high standard, you're also somebody that wants to be in total control. And if you want to be in total control, make the decision. Offer kindness to ourselves, or a moment of tragedy will happen, a moment of something out of our control will take place, which we will have no option but to be kind to ourselves and to accept that things are out of our control. I struggled with this for years. I still struggle with it to this day. This video is very much for myself as much as it is for you. And yeah, kindness. Kindness is not weakness, externally nor internally. If you like this one, drop a comment in the comments. Love for the love. If you like the new Barnet, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.